with just a few minutes to speak, I'm going to get right to the point. Gunfire in the halls here, IEDs on the Capitol grounds. I will say to my colleagues, I've been stunned that with the domestic terrorists roaming the halls just a few hours ago, I've been stunned that this debate is actually going forward. And that's because, colleagues, this is a fake debate on electoral certification. That's because it lends credibility to the bogus idea that the Congress can actually toss out the results of the election. And as we saw today, it serves to fuel insurrection. Now, contrary to what some of my aye-voting colleagues believe, with aye votes cast just a few minutes ago, this debate has never been about setting up some kind of routine election tribunal. This isn't about election security. If the Republican majority for the last 2 years had actually been interested in election security, they would not have worked relentlessly to block my legislation to secure our 2020 elections with hand-marked paper ballots and post-election security audits. By the way, those are the kinds of approaches that are part of the Oregon system, where for 25 years we voted by mail. I'm the nation's first mail-in United States senator. The second, and I see my colleagues from Maine and Alaska here because they're very fond of him like I was, Gordon Smith, a Republican, was the second mail-in United States senator in our country. That's because we do the job right. It's efficient. Our late Republican Secretary of State, Dennis Richardson, actually told President Trump there was no evidence of fraud. So if Republicans had been interested over the last 2 years in actually working with me and colleagues on both sides of the aisle and secretaries of state, we could have had an approach that would have empowered the Oregon idea to go national. Instead, we're now debating tonight the idea of a discussion grounded in total fiction, brewed in cauldrons of conspiracies online. These, colleagues, are fever dreams laundered by people with election certificates and real power. And I will tell you, it's been painful to watch colleagues sidle up to some of those conspiracies that would inflict so much damage to the American experiment. Colleagues, I'm going to close with one last point. We saw today an effort by domestic terrorists to try to punch our democracy to the ground, to the ropes. And I'm going to close by simply saying something that hadn't been said tonight, and that is Donald Trump can do enormous damage to our country in the next 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, colleagues, Donald Trump can do enormous damage to our wonderful country. This afternoon, I don't know if my colleagues saw it, the National Association of Manufacturers, an organization with thousands of businesses, thousands of companies, and not exactly a left-wing outfit. They called for moving forward with the 25th Amendment. All over the news already, colleagues, this afternoon, the National Association of Manufacturers. That's what we're seeing in our country with respect to the fear of Americans having watched what happened here. So I'm just going to close by way of saying, I believe that for the next 2 weeks, we have an enormous responsibility to watchdog Donald Trump day in and day out, to do everything possible to prevent the kind of abuses that we saw today, where an American lost her life. And we saw the fear among our citizens at what went on. Let's do everything we can as leaders, Democrats and Republicans, to make sure in the next 2 weeks Donald Trump's abuses are checked. We do everything we can to protect this wonderful nation of ours. Mr. President, I yield the floor.